you're not actually broke, but your brain hasn't noticed that yet. You still pause before spending. You still feel a small wave of anxiety when money leaves your account. You still think twice, even when you don't need to. And no matter how much you earn now, there's this quiet feeling in the background. This could all go away. So you keep checking, you keep adjusting, you keep trying to feel safe enough. But that feeling never fully arrives. Because the problem isn't how much money you have. It's the version of you that learned. Money doesn't last. There's a very specific pattern you see in people who grew up in the 80s. They didn't necessarily grow up poor, but they grew up around instability. Money felt uncertain, fragile, temporary. Even when things were fine, it didn't feel secure. There were layoffs, inflation, sudden changes, or just an atmosphere where money was always something to be careful with. And as a child, you don't analyze that. You absorb it. You internalize a rule that no one ever says out loud. Don't relax, this can change. And that rule doesn't disappear just because your income increased. Most people think their relationship with money is based on logic. Income, expenses, savings, investments. But that's not what drives your behavior. It's the script you learned early. And for a lot of 80s kids, that script sounds like this. Money is unstable. Money disappears. Money requires constant attention. So even when your life improves, your internal system stays on alert. You don't feel stable. You feel temporarily okay. That's a very different experience. Money didn't just pass through your life. It programmed your expectations. Your bank balance says one thing. Your body says another. You might have savings. You might have consistent income. You might even be doing better than most people around you. But internally, there's tension, a low-level alert, like something is slightly off. That's because your nervous system isn't responding to your current reality. It's responding to your past environment. And your past taught you something very specific. Stability is temporary, so even when nothing is wrong, your system is waiting for something to go wrong. Calm doesn't feel natural. It feels suspicious. This is where it goes deeper, because it's not just about fear. It's about identity. You didn't just learn to be careful with money. You became someone who is careful with money. That became part of how you see yourself. Responsible, cautious, alert. And those traits helped you. They protected you. But now, they're limiting your ability to feel safe. Because even when your situation changes, your identity resists updating. You still see yourself as someone who needs to watch everything closely. Someone who can't fully relax. Someone who is always preparing. Income can change quickly. Identity changes slowly. You expected something to happen when you started earning more. Relief, confidence, stability, a feeling of, I made it. But instead, something strange happened. Your lifestyle improved, but your internal state didn't. You adapted. Quickly. What once felt like a lot of money became normal, then insufficient, then just baseline. This is where people get confused, because from the outside, everything looks better, but internally, nothing feels resolved. That's because the feeling you're chasing was never clearly defined. You didn't want more money, you wanted a feeling of safety, and money alone doesn't automatically create that. There's another layer that makes this worse. Comparison. You look around and see people your age who seem further. Better houses, better investments, more visible success. And even if you're doing well, it doesn't feel like enough. Because now, enough is no longer defined by your needs. It's defined by what you see. And what you see is curated, filtered, highlighted, incomplete. But your brain doesn't treat it that way. It treats it as a reference point. So now you're not just managing money. You're managing where you stand. You're not behind financially. You feel behind psychologically. This creates another pattern. You spend money, and it makes sense. It's justified, reasonable, even deserved, but it doesn't feel satisfying. There's no real shift, no lasting change in how you feel, because the spending isn't solving a practical problem. It's trying to solve an emotional one, and emotional patterns don't resolve through transactions, so money leaves, but the feeling stays. And over time, spending becomes maintenance, not progress. So what do? You try to gain control. You track everything. You monitor your accounts. You stay aware. And on paper, that's good. But internally, it doesn't create peace, because control isn't what you're actually looking for. You're looking for certainty. And those are not the same thing. You can know exactly where your money is going and still feel like something is missing, because the discomfort isn't coming from lack of information. It's coming from lack of emotional safety. You don't want control. You want to stop anticipating loss. This is where behavior becomes inconsistent. You go through phases, periods of strict control, followed by moments of release. You save aggressively, then spend impulsively. You restrict, then compensate, not because you lack discipline, but because you're regulating tension. Saving feels like protection, spending feels like relief, and you move between those states, trying to stabilize something internal. But the cycle keeps repeating, because the underlying pattern hasn't changed. If you look closely, there's always something in the background, a sense that you need to be ready. For what exactly? It's not always clear, but it feels real. So you save, not just for goals, but for protection, for just in case, for something undefined. And because that something is undefined, there's no finish line, no point where you can say, I'm safe now. So you keep preparing, and preparing, and preparing. Security becomes a moving target your mind never lets you reach. There's also something structural happening. You were raised with one set of expectations. Work hard, be responsible, build stability. But the world changed. Costs increased. Paths shifted. Outcomes became less predictable. So now you're doing everything right, but it doesn't feel like it's producing the same results. And that creates confusion, because you don't know if the problem is you or the system. So you internalize it. You assume you're behind. You assume you should have figured it out by now. You confuse structural change with personal failure. From the outside, your life might look fine. Stable job, decent income, functional lifestyle. But internally, there's tension, and that creates a gap between how things look and how they feel. So you maintain the appearance. You keep things together. You spend in ways that align with your environment. But internally, there's still uncertainty, and that disconnect is exhausting, because you're not just managing money, you're managing perception. At some point, you start to realize something. This feeling isn't going away on its own, and it's not directly tied to how much you earn, because you've already tested that. You've increased your income, and the feeling stayed. So the question changes. It's no longer, how do I make more money? It becomes, why doesn't more money change how I feel? This is where things get uncomfortable, because you have to question something deeper. What does money actually represent to you? For many people, it's not just a tool. It's protection, it's control, it's identity, it's proof. So when money feels unstable, you don't just feel financially insecure, you feel personally exposed. And that's why the feeling is so persistent, because you're not protecting your finances. You're protecting what money represents in your mind. Most people never consciously define enough. They inherit it from childhood, from environment, from comparison. So no matter how much they earn, it keeps shifting because it was never grounded. So part of the shift is this, not increasing your income, but redefining your baseline. What does enough actually look like for you today? Not compared to others, not based on outdated expectations, but based on your real life. Because without that, you'll keep chasing a number that keeps moving. Here's something most people overlook. Your brain doesn't update based on logic. It updates based on repeated evidence. So telling yourself, "I'm fine," doesn't work. But experiencing stability over time does. Seeing that nothing collapses. Seeing that your system holds. Seeing that money comes in and continues. That's what starts to shift the internal expectation. Slowly, not instantly. Your nervous system learns through consistency, not arguments. This is where identity begins to change. Not through forcing confidence. Not through pretending everything is fine. But through alignment. Your behavior starts to match your current reality, not your past. You stop reacting to old threats that are no longer present. You start making decisions from where you are, not where you came from. And over time, you become someone different. Not just someone who has money, but someone who feels stable with it. You're not broken. You're not bad with money. You're carrying a pattern that made sense at the time. A pattern built in an environment where money didn't feel safe. But your life is not that environment anymore. And until that internal version of you updates, no number will feel like enough. Because the problem was never just money. It was what money came to mean. You're not broke. Your identity just hasn't caught up. Calm doesn't feel safe when you grew up expecting instability. Income changes faster than identity. You don't want more money. You want to stop anticipating loss. Your nervous system learns through consistency, not arguments.